It's been a couple of weeks since Lola Vice finally became the NXT Women's Champion. Over the course of the last several months, actually, over the course of the last couple of years or so, Lola Vice has chased after the NXT Women's Championship on numerous occasions, only to fall short. Whether it was cashing in her women's breakout tournament contract, or whether it was winning multiple number one contender matches, for the right to challenge for said title, Lola Vice always came up short. However, this pat however however a little over a couple weeks ago at Stand and Deliver, Lola Vice finally did it. She is now the NXT Women's Champion, and even though she does have her first title defense this coming Tuesday at NXT Revenge, she still needs a challenger for her NXT Women's title post NXT Revenge, because it is, as I said, once you've defended your title for the first time, if you are able to successfully retain your title, that is where the reign truly begins. But if you lose on your first defense, you essentially become a transitional champion. But I have a feeling that Lola Vice might not be a transitional champion. So let's think fantasy booking. Let's say that she does retain the NXT Women's title against JC Jane. Well, who will be next for Vice City? Well, to be honest, there is a long plethora of talent that would be more than a challenge for Lola Vice. I would say you have Adriana Rizzo, but we have not seen Rizzo in over a year. It has been well over a year since we saw Rizzo in NXT. That's because she had suffered a knee injury quite some time ago. From there, you've got Ariana Grace, the current TNA Knockouts champion. You've got Blake Monroe. I would say Carly Bright, but she's currently working at Evolve. And I think she'll probably be going after the Evolve Women's Championship more than the NXT Women's title. You've got Fallon Henley. You've got Izzy Dame. Obviously, the previous champion JC Jane. You've got Jada Parker, Carmen Petrovich, Kalani Jordan, Kendall Gray, Lainey Reed, Nikita Lyons, but obviously she's been on Evolve a lot more as of late. Who else? Skylar Ray, who made quite the impression on NXT several months back, but since then we haven't seen much of her. Odds are we'll probably see her on WWE Evolve. There's Sol Ruka, Tatum Paxley, the current NXT Women's North American Champion, Thea Hale, Tyra May Steele, who won the first season of WWE LFG, but again has been on Evolve as of late. Wendy Chu again on Evolve. Ren Sinclair, the current Women's Speed Champion, and Zarya. Crazy enough, this is 1000%. This is a no-brainer. Top 4. This is a no-brainer. Zarya, Sol Ruka, Izzy Dame, and Kalani Jordan. 100%. Those are the top 4. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. You're probably asking yourself, wait a minute, why not someone like Thea Hale or Carmen Petrovich? Here's the thing. do not get it twisted, right? I am a big fan of both Petrovich and Thea Hale. The problem with having both with having either one of them challenge for the NXT Women's Title is the fact that a lot of fans believe that Carmen Petrovich is better suited on WWE Evolve, and they're right. They are 100% better. They are 100% right. She is better off on Evolve than she would be on NXT, because right now, on NXT, she's 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 literally lost. She's gotten lost in the shuffle of everything that's been going on in the women's division, not only in NXT but also in WWE as a whole. With every single female tag team in the division chasing after the Irresistible Forces and the women's tag team titles, with with the Tatum Paxley trying to become trying to chase her next challenger for her North American title, and also and also too um and also too you also have as well the women's speed championship as well going on. Robert Stone is trying to figure out what the fuck is going to be next for Ren Sinclair. And then Kendall Gray, don't get it twisted. Yes, she is a former Evolve Women's Champion. The problem is that with Kendall Gray as NXT Women's Champion, she could very well, again, to my point, get lost in the shuffle. And it's the same thing with Thea Hale. For the most part, she's been doing mostly backstage work rather than working the front lines, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is, instead of competing in the ring as often as she did when she was a part of Chase University, she's been mostly doing backstage segments. And if she got lucky, maybe she might compete in a match against whoever decided to against whoever decided to fuck with her backstage. And that literally all that and more is taking place in 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 NXT. And so I feel like with someone like Carmen Petrovich or Thea Hale, if either of them became NXT Women's Champion, they could very well just get lost in the shuffle. But as far as Zarya goes, she's been chasing after the NXT Women's title for well over a year now. She even chased after the NXT Women's North American title last year at Stand and Deliver, only to fall short to her now former BFF, Sol Ruka, and she fell short again against Sol at Stand and Deliver a couple weeks ago. So I think it's safe to say that with Stand and Deliver in the rear view mirror, I think it's safe to say that the only way that Zarya can chase after the NXT Women's title is if she can finally silence the hype that is Sol Ruka. Is it possible? Absolutely, 100%. It is possible for Zarya to gain a pinfall victory over Sol, but Sol Ruka, because that she's been a part of NXT a lot longer than Zarya, the veteran instincts did indeed come into play at Stand and Deliver. So Zarya is definitely worthy of becoming number one contender, but she definitely still needs to rack up at least a few more wins before she can make her way to that conversation. Now Sol Ruka on the other hand, I mean, to be fair, she's done everything that she said she wanted to do. She said that she wanted to become NXT Women's North American Champion. She did that. She wanted to go to Evolution and compete for championship gold. She did that with Zarya over the women's tag team titles, and that was in a fatal 4-way. Think about that. Think about that. She said that she wanted to compete in the women's Iron Survivor. She did that. She has done everything that she accomplished except for one thing, and that is the NXT Women's title. Now, obviously, we do know that yes, Lola Vice and Sol Ruka are friends, but we know that when it comes to championships, there are no such thing as friends. So I have a feeling that Sol Ruka could very may well become a threat to her reign as NXT Women's Champion. Who else did I say? Kalani Jordan, I said. And Izzy Dame. I did say that. Okay, so Kalani Jordan definitely has become a very dangerous individual when it comes to the NXT Women's division. And I find it actually refreshing, if you will, for Kalani Jordan, because over the course of the last several years, prior to her heel turn after losing the TNA Knockouts title, prior to all of that, she was one of the biggest. She was one of the top babyface mid carders in NXT. When she became the first ever women's North American champion, excuse me, that was when she truly established herself as one of the top stars in NXT. And when she dropped the TNA Knockouts title, that was when everything changed. Her demeanor changed, her attitude changed, and she ultimately became a heel. And while it is true that yes, she has gotten lost in the shuffle a couple times here and there, excuse me, her rise to stardom resurrected in the women's Royal Rumble match a few months ago, and she made such a huge impression in that matchup that could be more than enough for Kalani to challenge for the NXT Women's title. Now as far as Izzy Dame goes, right? Like, Izzy Dame is definitely a huge threat. She can be such a big threat to Lola Vice's reign as the NXT Women's Champion. However, when you look at what she's done over the course of the last year, she helped Tatum Paxley become NXT Women's Champion. She became Women's North American Champion in her own right. She cost Tatum Paxley the NXT Women's title. Yet now, Izzy Dame has established herself as one of the big, as arguably one of, if not the biggest star in NXT. And I have a feeling that Izzy Dame could potentially become number one contender. But between those four, who should not be number one contender? First one up, Zarya. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, wait a minute, why not? Why Zarya? Well, it's because of her obsession with Sol Ruka. It seems like her loss to Sol Ruka at Stand and Deliver has gotten the best of her, and I think if she became number one contender, I have a feeling that her her obsession for Sol Ruka could very may well take over, and she could lose against Lola Vice. Next one up is Kalani Jordan. I know that I know that this might sound a bit weird because of the fact that Kalani Jordan has truly established herself as a top heel in NXT. The problem is that WWE was so impressed with her performance in the women's Royal Rumble match that many people believe that she could very may well end up on the main roster as soon as after WrestleMania, which is going to be literally next week. A week from today will be WrestleMania weekend, and within the next couple weeks, Kalani Jordan could end up on the main roster. But even if she doesn't, I think the NXT Women's title, in my opinion, might be a bit too much for her. So I think she'd be better suited chasing after the Women's North American title. That leaves one more spot in that column, and as crazy as it sounds, it is going to be Izzy Dame. The reason being is because she's put a lot of her focus on the culling, and I feel like if Shawn Spears and Nico Vance did chase after the NXT tag team titles between now and, like, let's say just as a random example, with NXT's next PLE, which I believe should be Battleground. I believe Battleground either next month or sometime in June, one or the other. But within that timeline, if the culling do indeed chase after the NXT tag team titles, Izzy Dame will do whatever it takes to ensure that the NXT tag team titles, now currently being held by the Vanity Project, end up in the hands of the culling, and she wouldn't have any time for her to go after the NXT Women's title, which leaves one person and one person only, and yes, it is Sol Ruka. I believe Sol Ruka should be next in line for the NXT Women's title, no pun intended, solely because of the fact that Sol Ruka has become the biggest star in NXT. She went from being a virtuous unknown on NXT Level Up, which was an actual weekly show, if you can believe it, to being a former North American champion, to being one of the biggest stars in NXT, and she could definitely become a big star in WWE. And I could go so far as to say that Sol Ruka might be one of the only female talent that could be on the same level as Rey Mysterio. One of the only people that could retire never as a heel, because that was Rey Mysterio. Because when Rey Mysterio got signed to WWE in 2002, he never turned heel, not even once. Sol Ruka could very may well be on that level at some point, and I feel like if Sol Ruka were to receive that opportunity, it would be such an instant classic. But I think Sol Ruka is ready to become NXT Women's Champion. So who do I think should challenge? I think it should be Sol Ruka because of all of that, because of all those reasons. But if you feel like that I am wrong, and you feel like that there's someone else that should take up that challenge, let me know down in the comments below. And that'll do it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are new to the channel and you guys want more WWE topic videos in the future. Now be sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and as always, make sure you guys are following me on all of my social media. All of my ads will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.